Abby, and today I am here to tell you about these super cool animals behind me. If you've tuned in to our lives before, you might recognize me as the person who's usually on the other side of the camera, but sharks are just so cool, I couldn't help myself, and I had to come and tell you guys all about how cool these animals are. So the first thing we're going to talk about is what exactly makes a shark a shark. There's a couple really stark differences between sharks and bony fish. And we've got both sharks and bony fish here in this exhibit behind me. So we're gonna see if we can find those differences. The first difference between sharks and bony fish is one that we can see from the outside. So me and you can see it. So if you look at a fish's gills, we can see some differences in our shark there in the back, Chewy, that big white fish with the polka dots. If we look really close when he swims his way around, we'll notice that he has 5 gill slits. Let's see if we can get him up here. There we go. Here's his mouth, all the way on the bottom there. So we can see that he's got lots of gill slits. Now, bony fish will only have 1 gill slit. So if the animal you're looking at has 5 to 7 slits for gills, then it's a shark. Now the other two differences between sharks and bony fish are things that we can't really see by just looking at the animal. For one thing, sharks have a skeleton that is made entirely of cartilage. So cartilage is that stuff that makes up your ears or the tip of your nose. And sharks have nice hard cartilage making up their skeleton, whereas fish have bones. That's why they're bony fish. Another difference that we would have to look inside the animal to see the difference is the way that these animals move up and down in the water column. Bony fish, like our grouper up here, have what's called a swim bladder that they can fill up with air to help them go up and down in the water. Now sharks, on the other hand, have a really large liver. It's very, very fatty, and that is what helps them to move up and down in the water column. So that's pretty cool. All of ours are kind of hanging out at the bottom at the moment. So a question that we get a lot is, are these really sharks? Because they don't really look like sharks. Normally, when we think of a shark, we think of an animal that looks kind of like my oversized keychain here. We think of something that's gray. This one doesn't have teeth, but it's probably got a lot of teeth, kind of scary looking. If you've seen the movie Jaws, probably looks something like that. Now, I know these don't look quite like that, but I promise they are sharks. But there are lots of different kinds of sharks. So those big toothy sharks are what we call pelagic sharks, which means they spend a lot of their time out in the open ocean swimming around. And then these sharks that we have in this exhibit, in our Shipwrecks exhibit, are all benthic sharks, also called carpet sharks, because they lay on the bottom like a carpet. So it's a pretty good name for them, I'd say. Now the reason those big sharks like great whites and hammerheads are always swimming around in the open ocean is because they have to get water over their gills to get oxygen out of the water. So the way they do this is with something called ram ventilation. Basically, with them, I'm gonna move this little shark here. So as they swim, they're ramming the water through their mouth and over their gills. So these types of sharks, pelagic sharks, are always constantly moving to make sure that they can get new oxygen. Now, with these sharks here in the exhibit, they're benthic sharks. You'll notice this one right here is sitting nice and still. So, how is that water getting over the gills? If we look by this shark's eyes, and then you look right underneath, there's a nice little hole right there. Those little holes under their eyes are called spiracles. And so the spiracles pump water over the animal's gills so that the shark doesn't have to be moving to get new water over the gills. So these animals are kind of known for sitting still in the sand and waiting for food to come by. That's why they're called carpet sharks. So those are the differences between those kinds of sharks, and that's why we have these ones here. They can sit nice and still. Hi, Chewy. Chewy is our largest fish here at the aquarium. It's pretty big. He's probably longer than I am tall. Looking like it, pretty close. He's given us a nice wave here. So if you folks want to follow me into the back, we'll get a different view of these super cool animals. So welcome to behind the scenes. We can look down, see if we can find any other sharks that we may have not been able to see from the front. We've also got some stingrays. We've got a grouper there in front of you. That's McGruber, what we call him anyway. So, as you're watching, see if you can count how many sharks are moving around, and if you can see any that are just sitting still, like we talked about, using those spiracles to get water over their gills. We have 3 different species of sharks here in this exhibit. That one that you're looking at now is a bamboo shark. Chewy out in the front is a zebra shark. And I don't see any of our horned sharks, but those are similar looking to those bamboo sharks. They're about the same size, but a little darker in color. So, the last thing that I would like to show you all is what these sharks eat. So they're not going to be eating today. These animals, all the animals at the aquarium, stick to a pretty strict diet so that we can make sure they stay at nice, healthy weights. But I did have to grab some food. Looks and smells delicious. We've got some squid in here. So this is definitely something that they would get on a normal day. They'll get it tomorrow, actually. Got a nice squid there. We've also got tasty shrimp. Love that. These are pretty big shrimp, as you can see. And then the last thing that these sharks would eat on a normal day is saltwater herring, these nice, big, tasty fish. So some of these we will definitely cut up so the sharks can eat them. You'll notice some of our sharks were a little bit smaller, but those will all be part of their normal diet. And those are things that they would probably find, or similar to things that they would find out in the wild as well. So with that, got a nice close-up of Chewy here. Hi, buddy. So we can see those spiracles right under his eyes. Pretty cool. And then we can see he's got all those nice gill slits right there. Pretty cool. So, if you've got any other questions about sharks that I didn't get to, feel free to leave those questions in the comments and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. If you would like to see these amazing animals for yourself, as well as all the other exhibits at the aquarium, we are open from 10 to 6 every day. And today we actually have our beer garden event, which is a weekly event that we're hosting from 5 to 9 p.m. And we'll have some vendors like Oasis del Norte, we'll have Earth Rider beer, and then we'll have some kombucha, and the DSSO will be joining us today as well with one of their quartets for some live music. So feel free to come on down and check that out. The beer garden is totally free, and admission to the aquarium with that beer garden ticket is optional, but then you can check out some of our super cool animals that way as well. So with that, I'm going to let you guys go for today. Next week, we'll be back with more lives on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 1 o'clock. And thank you all so much for all of your support. We really appreciate it. Thanks.